Optimove, the leader in positionless marketing, frees marketing teams from the limitations of fixed roles, boosting campaign efficiency by 88%. Its positionless marketing platform delivers 3 transformative powers: data power for real-time customer insights, creative power for instant asset creation, and optimization power for self-optimizing campaigns. With Optimove, you can do anything and be everything. Go to optimove.com/totalretail to get your first month free when buying Optimove's positionless marketing platform.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail, and I'm excited to be joined on today's episode by Ed Evans, who is the CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're going to talk about the growth of Consumer Cellular, particularly its brick-and-mortar business with Ed, and talk a little bit about also how kind of digital plays a role in the brand's future. So we're excited to have Ed Evans from Consumer Cellular to join us. Thanks for taking the time today, Ed.
Thanks for having me, Joe. It's great to be here today.
So as I alluded to just now, Consumer Cellular is expanding its brick-and-mortar business. This is obviously happening at a time when many retailers are either downsizing stores or closing them altogether. So tell us, you have a goal of 100 locations, I believe, by 2026. And so maybe you could give our audience a little bit of an insight into what's driving this decision to really invest in physical retail and how it aligns with your long-term strategy at Consumer Cellular.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It really goes back 5 years ago when we acquired the business. At that point in time, most of our new sales actually came through big box retailers such as Target and Walmart, et cetera. And over time, you get into COVID and guess what? No Target store is open at that point in time, right? So the majority of your distribution goes away overnight. And then we believe that as soon as COVID was over, big box retail would sort of return to its luster, and that's where we would go forward. And what we experienced that time was quite a surprise for us. We saw that the big box retailers did not come back. We started seeing a real drop-off in year-over-year sales as we move forward. And so as we evaluated the business and we started looking at all the alternatives, the reality is the best experience is always going to be a company-owned, company employee who's well-trained, who can sit down and hold your hand through the process. Now, nobody likes to do brick and mortar because it's expensive, right? So we were in that camp as well. I wasn't really sure that I wanted to incorporate and expend a lot of capital on going out and doing this when, to your point, everybody is sort of moving away from it. We opened a few stores in some obvious places to start out with. The Villages down in Florida is an example, right? As we target the 55 plus cohort that's out there, you're not going to find any more of them in a more condensed area. So we launched in that direction, and we've been very pleasantly surprised as things have sort of moved forward. Today, as we sit here, we're over 60 stores strong. And to your point, by the end of March 26, we'll actually be at 100 and probably continue going from there.
Are there particular geographic markets that you're targeting? Maybe tell us a little bit about kind of your penetration now and how that might shift as you continue to grow.
So what we're seeing today is about 12% of our total distribution is coming through brick and mortar. Over 60% comes from direct call into our call center. So our company-owned controlled distribution is over 90% today. And that's just made for a much better experience for the consumer. We've got a data science team that we brought on several years ago that looks into where is the best place to put these. And there are probably 100 different factors that go into it. We look at where we have an existing customer base today. We look at where there's a cohort that matches our typical demographic that's out there today. And it's not surprising. It's in a lot of the retirement areas, right? Arizona has a lot of stores. Florida has the most stores. But there's some other areas that are out there too that do very well. Toledo, Ohio is an example, not one you would think of, or Bristol, Connecticut. But they tend to be smaller towns where we don't do phenomenally well in large metro areas. If you get to cities that are sort of sub 1 million, they tend to have very large populations of that 60 or 55 plus crowd that's out there. And so we look to those and we go through this checklist of about 100 people and sort of stack rank them that way.
So you've mentioned that your target demographic at Consumer Cellular is a 55 plus, so a little bit of an older shopper. And that's often been kind of an underserved demographic, particularly by larger wireless providers. They're targeting that younger consumer. You guys are taking a different approach. So, one, tell me a little bit about that in terms of that market that your customer base falls in. And then I guess it aligns nicely with your in-person retail strategy you just talked about and how you can kind of better serve that customer potentially in ways that your digital only competitors can't.
Yeah, to take the first piece, the 55 plus cohort to your earlier comments, I think you're exactly right. It has been a very underserved area. What's unique in the wireless area in particular around the 55 plus group is that the more we age, the less data we use on the network. We're not taking kids to soccer games anymore, right? You tend to be in environments where you're in Wi-Fi a lot more of the time. And when the big three wireless carriers set their pricing, they have to price taking into account 18-year-olds that are using 100 gigabytes of data every month, all the way up to the 90-year-olds that are using 1 gigabyte every month. So they take an average, and their average is about 22 gigabytes a month, is what their subscribers are using. And they set their pricing that way. We know that our cohort uses less than 10 gigabytes on a monthly basis. That allows me to put an unlimited plan into the marketplace at a substantially lower price than what the big three can do on the exact same network and not have fear of somebody running way over that and taking our cost structure out of control. So that's what attracted us to the cohort originally. And what we found is that over the last 5 years, it stayed exactly the same, right? 50-year-olds today are using more data than 50-year-olds from 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But that delta between a 60-year-old and a 30-year-old is staying pretty constant. So as long as that does, the model continues to work. And it's been a very successful place for us.
Would it be fair to say that the consumer base of 50 plus is also more likely or more willing, more expected to be going in store to kind of have their needs served than maybe a younger shopper?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. And that's probably one of the biggest learnings that we've seen from our brick and mortar stores is that the quality customer that we get out of our own retail store is materially better. They're picking a higher level rate plan. They have a level of trust that's higher. They churn at a much lower rate. If you can imagine for a second, a customer who's 75 years old who wants to switch to consumer cellular, they have their own device. We have to send them a SIM card in the mail if they have an older phone. And imagine a 75-year-old trying to figure out where this SIM card goes in some of these devices that are out there today. It's a huge difference in that we can basically get them in the store, do all of that work for them so that we just take care of the customer and take care of everything they need to do right there. So it's been a material difference.
It's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, Ed. And you mentioned this in terms of the kind of the in-store experience, particularly the training that goes into the employees that are working at your consumer cellular stores. Tell us a little bit about that training and that empowerment that you're giving to your store associates to deliver that high level of customer experience that you want the brand to be known for.
There's been so many incredible learnings, and the first thing that we teach to everybody is patience, right? If you came out of one of the big three carriers and you're out there in their retail stores, they want a customer in and out in X number of minutes. If you call into their call center, they want you off the phone within X number of minutes. My average phone call into the call center today is close to 10 minutes. None of the big three are going to take that much time to spend with you going through it. In the retail stores, if you walk into our brick and mortar stores, one of the first things that you're going to see is a place to sit down. We have several, couches and chairs that are around because we know we're going to sit down and spend time with these people and go through it versus going into one of the big three stores where you take a number and stand in the corner and try to wait until somebody calls your number. Patience is the biggest thing that we really teach them. And from there on, it's look, just resolve it. No matter how long it takes, we don't care. Just get it resolved, because if you resolve it for that customer on the first time when they come in, they're not going to come back. It's going to be fine. It works and they move on.
We've talked primarily about the physical retail stores for Consumer Cellular, but I don't want to neglect what you are doing digitally as well, because that can still play a crucial role in your customer acquisition and your service and your engagement with that customer. So tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about balancing the physical presence with the digital engagement that you want to give so that you're getting a seamless kind of consistent experience for your customers.
It's a great question. And it is one that is fairly unique to this cohort because with this particular group, what we have found is we've been somewhat surprised that less than, call it 10% of my customers actually just go to the website, go through the shopping experience on the website and complete the transaction on the website. However, 90+% of my customers go to the website, explore it, read, do everything they're going to do, then they call into the call center. So the digital experience on the front end has to give them the information that they want. And then after that, the cohort tends to be suspicious, right? They're not going to buy things on the internet. This thing is still, crazy. We don't know what this is about. They want to talk to a live person, and they do that. And so we spend a lot of time on the website and on the various, the My App application that we have and all of those things to reduce friction. And that's the key to it. If they get in and they can't find this or they can't find that because the font is too small or it's in the wrong place, they don't understand the terminology, they just get off and they're gone. But if you can feed them all of that information, the conversion rate for somebody who goes to my website and then actually calls into one of the call centers to complete the transaction is incredibly high. I would argue that it's by far the highest in the industry. So we absolutely have to use both of those channels. We've got to present them the information in a way that they're willing to digest it, but then give them a vehicle with not a lot of friction where they can actually talk to a live human being and get their questions answered.
It seems to be, and this is intentional, I expect, that it's more of a consultative and educational back and forth with the customer than the other wireless carriers maybe, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. In our average age of our customers in the mid 60s right now, but we have a lot of customers that are in the 70s and 80s. I mean, I would venture to say that 20% of my customer base is probably over 80 years old. And understand that people that are 80 years old, the internet is a very scary thing to those people, right? Now, the people that are 50 and 60, I'm in the cohort. I get it. I mean, I'm much more technically savvy. I don't mind going to the website and getting on there and going through things. But there's still a very large percentage of this entire group that really needs to understand it, is very intimidated by it. They're coming off of, they had a flip phone, right? And flip phone, even today, not for new customers, but for my existing customers, when they upgrade, the number one phone that I sell to my existing customer base is still older flip phones. They don't have a lot of technology in them. That's changing very rapidly. They're getting introduced to their first smartphone. And if you can imagine picking up your first Android or Apple device after you've had a flip phone for many, many, many years, it's pretty intimidating, right? I mean, what are these app things? What are all these buttons that are on there? So we really have to work with them to understand, explain what do those do. We can actually help them sort of dumb down the user interface if they want to. So there aren't all these things on there they don't understand. We can simplify it, reduce it to, hey, I want to send text messages. I want to make phone calls. I want to do email. I don't need all of these other things on there. Can you get those off for me? And yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm smiling as you're talking about this, Ed, because you're my parents who are in their 80s, you're explaining them to a T. And it's, this is exactly the type of customer that I imagine you're working with on a consistent basis. So that's what I'm thinking about as you're answering that question. You talked about the average call time for your service team around 10 minutes. And one of the things I noted in the research for this is that at Consumer Cellular, you've made it a deliberate choice to build a 100% US-based customer service operation. Tell us why that is the case, and then the key benefits of going in that direction in terms of your call center.
A lot of this just goes back to the cohort again. And understand that as we age, we start to lose our hearing. And it's not just we can't hear the same volume, but we don't hear the same range anymore from high to low. And so things like accents from even parts of the US to foreign countries, any type of an accent like that is outside of what they normally listen to every day is very difficult for them to understand. And they're very frustrated by that. And so we have a West Coast call center group. There are 3 or 4 call centers on the West Coast. And then we have two sort of in the Midwest that are out there. And as the time zones move, the calls move into those centers as they're going across there. And so we worked very hard at trying to find as an agnostic accent as you can find out there. I wouldn't go into the deep South any more than I would go into Boston. And it's no, offense to the people that are there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just that there are dialects that are there that are different, that are difficult for some older cohorts to really understand. So we've been very focused on that and have been very successful. The second piece of that I think gets neglected a lot too is there's a really simple rule with us in call centers. Answer the phone. They don't want to go through a voice response unit 15 times. If after one prompt, they're not talking to a human being, you've lost them. They're not going to, they can barely understand the VRU. It tends to sound like a machine. It doesn't sound like a human to them. And it's back to that range and the hearing again that they're struggling with. So if you can't get to them after one prompt, you're going to lose them. And so we focus on that. We get to our average call is less than 30, 40 seconds and rarely above 60 seconds unless there's something wrong with the network.
And I think that's reflected. The measurement that's reflected is the distribution of your sales that are occurring through those phone calls, right? I think you said it was somewhere around 60%.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. If you can get on and have a conversation with them and explain in a simple manner exactly what's going on and what the process is going to be, it works. And it's been a really successful formula for us.
So we've talked store expansion. I would love to get your thoughts going forward, where you believe the greatest opportunities for growth exist for Consumer Cellular. Innovation, it could be product offerings, it could be customer experience, different things that you're targeting for both, perhaps in the short term and then also maybe thinking longer term.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the mobile wireless space is a fairly saturated market right now, right? So most of the time at this point, we're all just sort of trading share between each other as we sort of go forward. We've been lucky. We've been gaining share against everybody for the last 5 years and continue to do that. But the reality is the product set needs to expand. About a year ago, we got into personal emergency response devices, the little pendant that you wear. So if you fall down, you can get help right away. It's far exceeded any of our expectations in the first several months. We offer a home base station, which sounds crazy in this day and age, but understand this cohort is used to having a phone on their wall for the last 50 years. And they like that. They like the ability to go over and pick up a phone and answer and go through it. Well, the Bell companies and AT&T have been lobbying in every state to start to shut down that copper network. These guys don't want to just be stuck with a cell phone. They still feel very comfortable with a landline phone. So we offer a product that it is in fact a wireless phone, but it's a little box that just sits on the counter that you plug your home phone into, and that it works just like your home phone. You hear a dial tone, it has voicemail and all of those things. So you'll see us continue to expand out the product set with things like that. Bundling is becoming very big in the industry these days, where you can bundle a broadband product with wireless services. We see all the cable companies doing it. We see the big three now getting into the fiber space and trying to bundle that. I don't have a solution for that today. So we are working and looking at various opportunities to sort of solve for that and to be able to provide that. The next leg for us is caretakers and being able to, my mother is in her 90s right now and has an iPad that she swears by and gets on and goes through it. And much like you described your parents, it can be an exercise in futility trying to get them where you're trying to get to, right? And understanding how difficult it is for them to comprehend this kind of stuff. But we're finding, more importantly, that they're susceptible to fraudulent activity. They're an easy target for phishing scams and various scams that are out there. And so we've been working very hard on product sets that can protect them, that whitelist their email, that block bad text messages that are coming in, that don't let just outsiders call in and has to be a known number. That type of stuff is what we grow into. AARP has been a huge partner of ours for the last 20 years, 17 years, I guess it is in total. And we work closely with their group to tell us what are seniors experiencing today that are concerns for them, and what can we do to make it better? If that's ID management in some sort of a product that helps them protect their ID, if it's technology products that help them live their life better and stay in their home longer, which is what we're all trying to accomplish. That's the kind of stuff we're looking to expand into.
I have one final question. You mentioned something that triggered a thought in that last answer, Ed, in terms of the caretakers. For many of your elderly customers, are you thinking about marketing to their caretaker, right? Because they might be the one that's interacting, with if they're helping their parents or their grandparents or whatever the case may be. How do you kind of balance that? Thinking about who might ultimately be transacting could be a caretaker versus the end user of the phone.
Oh, you're exactly right. And you think about it, the caretakers are coming into the cohort right now, right? So they're
True.
getting into
Yeah.
the 50s and 60s right now. And there have been some, I think, funny anecdotal stories that have come out from customers where there was a woman that I talked to who was in her late 70s, and her daughter was sort of her caretaker. And her daughter, she had been a Consumer Cellular customer for 15 years and wasn't going anywhere. And the daughter showed up at the house one day and said, Mom, I think it's time. I think I'm going to take your cell phone and put it on a family plan that I have with one of the big three carriers, and it's going to save you money and it's going to do this. And the woman told the story that I'm not doing that. I've been with Consumer Cellular. I called them and they take care of it. You need to come on to Consumer Cellular. And they could save you money too. And the daughter actually did a little research on it and came back and said, yeah, I mean, I can get the ARP discount and get 2 lines and save a bunch of money. So it's certainly a hurdle we have to overcome. And as these people are moving into the cohort, and again, I'm square in the middle of it, nobody wants to look back and say, oh, I'm old now, I qualify for the old people plans. No, we look at it a different way. You've earned what you're going to get right now. You're going to get a large discount for the exact same network and be able to do other things with your money than have to worry about a $200 a month wireless bill.
Yeah, it's a great point. I wasn't even thinking about the acquisition opportunity there too so you're bringing more
You go
more
back the
customers.
other way.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a great point. Well, I want to take the opportunity to thank Ed Evans. He's the CEO of Consumer Cellular for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Ed. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great time. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.
Optimove, the leader in positionless marketing, empowers marketers to instantly deliver real-time personalization. Boosting campaign efficiency by 88%, it allows marketers to do anything and be everything. Go to optimove.com/total retail to get your first month free when buying Optimove's positionless marketing platform.